Mr. Chima Nnaji joins us now, a legal practitioner. Thank you for coming on this morning.
Thank you very much.
Well, this speech generating a lot of reactions from Nigerians, and rightly so too. He's the president, he's addressed the people, they have to react to it. But in terms of what you have read and what you've seen in the last 1 year, what connects for you or what doesn't?
Well, some of the items on the speech will seem to, at the level of platitude, be okay. There is also a gradualist tendency in government, in governance under this administration. You take your time. That is not the expectation of so many Nigerians. Granted that this government inherited a lot of problems, and what the psychologists will call the recency effect. The last to leave the room is guilty of fouling the air. But then there is a duty on the last to leave the room, to see how to ameliorate the problems for those who are coming in. If you look at the area of security, government seems to be too frenetic in addressing that problem. There are a lot of discoveries. Let me take a classical case of the news item I saw on the television, that the JTF or whatever discovered bombs and bomb-making equipment somewhere in a mountain or a hill in Kogi. And it was shown in the media. I thought that was a blunder. Because I know the government is under pressure to show that it's doing something about security.
Why is it
but
blunder?
you have to blow it up. I thought that somebody or some group of people should have laid siege somewhere around that corner, even if it took 1 month, because they didn't find anybody there. And the tendency is that those people can go and replicate what they did in that hill, another place.
Okay, so emphasis should have been on getting some people,
you get
arresting
them, the
them.
moment you get these people over and over again,
So
you
you
get
you
more
stop
information.
further
Exactly.
attacks.
If you capture the man who spoils the broth here, he's not likely to enter into the next kitchen. So the point we are making is that, yes, the government needs to show the people that it is doing something, but it doesn't have to be frenetic about it. It doesn't have to want to show, hey, I'm doing something, just you people should wait, I'm doing something. A professional, a good doctor does not need to impress the parents of a patient who is on the operating table. There are procedures. At the end of the day, the result of that operation should speak for itself.
Yeah, but you know, in this case, people are usually impatient. You talked about not impressing them, and
Yes.
in politics, you need to show that you're doing something while still giving that long-term plan.
While
So
you are
how do
doing
you strike
those
a balance?
things, while you are doing those things, do them right. It's not praise you in the morning, chastise you in the evening. It's better to be chastised in the morning and praised forever, because people will say, okay, we did not know that was where you were headed. And there are so many things that could be done. Take, for example, the January or February announcement of prices.
Okay.
Of
January.
petroleum removal of subsidy.
January.
That was a very unpopular, even if it was needed. Although I still find it difficult to believe that we even had a subsidy. On this set, I once said that at the end of all the probe and everything, we'll get refunds. I'm still waiting for that refund, because the truth of the matter is that we have not gone into the fact of the corruption in the oil industry. And most of the advisors of this government seem to be too keen about prices. In marketing, price is the weakest link in the marketing mix. It's a cheap way of managing the marketing mix.
And they don't legislate the
An
prices.
adroit manager is there to put value, to add value to the mix. And price is usually the last thing you go for. There are things you can tinker around. For example, even PSCN. PSCN presently is not collecting all the revenues due to it. Only very few Nigerians are subsidizing others. and NEPA, and the PSCN, or please forgive me if I call it NEPA. It's
Well,
the same
get
thing.
the point.
Okay, now, for example, if you are on estimated meter, because they no longer like to sell that prepaid, it doesn't pay them anymore because they don't have power to sell. So you just use your generator and you are sure that you are using your generator with all the complaints, no problem. But you cannot use your generator, use whatever inverter or whatever you use, and at the end of the day, you pay NEPA for doing that, for using that. Do you understand? Yeah. So it is shielding a lot of inefficiencies. But if you have prepaid meter, for example, now deploy it to everybody, it will make NEPA to PSCN to sit up. Before you talk about any price increase, we have been all living witnesses to the year 2000, there will be light, there will be road, there will be water, there will be life abundance.
12 years after.
The year 2000 later, our life has entered into reverse.
Well, I think you have just touched on so many issues, and they talk about 2000. Actually, some thought it would never come when we approached 1999. Yes. But again, we saw 2000, and we're almost kissing 2013. But again, they always say the buck stops on the table of the president, but we must for a moment excuse the president and see if we can look at those he has actually given authority to perform or deliver on his promise to the people. Now we're talking about ministers and different agencies. From the speech you got yesterday when he talked about his plan for agriculture, the petroleum sector and others, which particular ministry do you think that, didn't quite make an impact that shouldn't have been mentioned on that particular address?
Why I will not be very, very direct on that question is that it is also possible that somebody may have been doing certain things that may not have been captured, or that somebody may have been too vociferous in articulating what he or she plans to do and have been captured. So the facts may not be readily available to make a very, factual assessment of the situation.
Well, as a Nigerian, speaking empirically now, which would you say you have felt or
now,
you haven't felt?
If you look at the agricultural sector, it's so fundamental to any economy. The minister has been making the right noises.
How do you mean right noises?
The right noises, some of the expectations is that expectations are that we should have food on the table at the right time, at the right price. And the farmers themselves should also have something, because they are in the same market. So some of the inputs for agriculture, perhaps the fertilizer inputs, which have been a monumental source of corruption, appears to have been somehow put under control. Now, we are now looking at local content in terms of confectionaries, which will likely escalate the input from something like cassava and so on and so forth. But there are quite a lot that needs to be done. It is not just producing, it is processing. That's where you add value. Now, our people have been used to subsistence, agriculture. You do small vegetable at the back of it. But even the land is no longer available. Like in Lagos here, so many people don't have access to land because of, the size of Lagos. And most people want to come to Lagos. So everybody ends up either, thank God that there's a work on the under the bridge issues. The state government is working on that. But that again is also creating its own problem because some of them will refuse to go out of Lagos. So there must be a way of accommodating them. So what we are saying is, if you look at the agricultural sector, if this government, for example, will just narrow down on 4 key areas, it's not that it will not, the other areas will not be running. There are some maintenance activities in other areas, but you look at agriculture, look at the petroleum resources. The area of competence we have now is petroleum. Use maximally and invest in other areas while the time is there, because this thing is a wasting asset, and it will not remain valuable in the market forever, because there's an effort to make electric cars or electric things, to make sure that the demand on petroleum products will reduce because the prices keep escalating, and it's a threat to the economy of the advanced countries.
Okay.
So they will sooner than later shock us, and we'll be carrying dead products in our hands.
You know, you made, sorry, Chamberlain.
Education is very important. Not just that you produce people from the university. Functional education. Somebody coming out from the university should be capable of creating things, bringing things from the wealth of his experience or high experience to bear on the environment in which this idea of, because that is what is causing people go to pay for JAMB results, or somebody sits GCE for somebody else, or they use a phone now to copy whatever, because we've emphasized certificate so much, and that is not helping us. You will be surprised if you call for interview today for MBA holders. You have 1,000 of them. They can't write a single page about themselves. MBA.
So, you know, you gave this instance.
Don't talk about degrees.
You
Ordinary
gave
degrees.
this instance of, you know, you use this simile of, or this metaphor of a doctor or a surgeon in a theater carrying out some work, not trying to impress the patients. Do you, the patient's parents?
Because he's a professional. He knows what to do better than
that governance is very much like that? Because in many ways, people also say that they want to be carried along. You take certain decisions that most likely will affect them. You don't consult them. They feel the impact. They complain.
Even in medicine, the doctor sits you down. I'm going to carry out these surgical operations on you. It will be this, it will be that. This is the result I'm expecting, but you have to go through these experiences. He puts these things clear to you, because it is mandatory that you must go through certain processes. You as the patient, you're already expecting it. When you see pain, I'm going to make sure that the pain is not going to be so much, but you must go through some measure of pain. When you see that, it is to lead to pleasure of being relieved of this problem. So you know, take childbirth. Every woman knows that it's a very risky process. Sometimes God makes it so easy for some people. Some people are not so lucky. But it's still a period every woman is not too sure of the outcome. But after going through that experience, the outcome compensates the pain, if any. I don't know whether so it is the same thing. Everything in life, when you reduce it to the atomic level, are the same.
So in this particular case, Nigerians are both the patients and the parents of the patients.
Yes.
It's a very complex one.
The doctor are those people in governance. They should be professional enough. But in our own case, we have people who come to learn on the job. In civilized climes, people come to governance with experience. Do you understand what I mean? Training and experience. It is that competence that gives the confidence to the populace.
Well, do we have any room for grooming? I mean, you talked about, you know, some people coming to the job with experience. Do we have any place where we can say...
We have so many Nigerians who are very competent. They have shown what they could do outside this country, which is unfortunate that it's only when you have, when CNN or any of the media outside celebrates you, that you now come home and they give you an award. But when you are down here, nobody even recognizes you because they say you come from this side or you are in so and so place and all. It doesn't help this system to make progress. Okay. So the point we are making here is that people at that level of ministerial level should be thinkers. It's just like being board members. You should be thinkers. We don't have many thinkers in government.
Let me stretch that point a
little bit. We have doers.
Now, tell us a little bit more. You've been in politics. How does it work, the decision-making process? Because we've seen presidents come and go, either heads of state, military ones to come and go. And when they take decisions about this country, the way it resonates with people is always, most times it turns out, all right, people usually are not in tune with those decisions. So is it about the persons or about the institutions? How come they seem disconnected from the people when they take some of these decisions?
There's a factor of the person. there's a factor of the process. Because the process itself is controlled by the system. But the person needs to have something in him or her to be able to manage the process. Like I just mentioned the case of a doctor. If you have a consultant surgeon in a clinical setting, the level of confidence of the patient escalates. Now, juxtapose that with when you have a houseman, somebody who just finished NYC, for example, coming and say that he wants to operate. That's why many people will rush away abroad. He may be good at what he wants to do, but he will not be able to inspire confidence in you, because these things are also perceptions. Now, if you have people who are strong personalities, not in terms of the ability to bulldoze their way, strength in terms of intellectual capacity. Let me give you an instance of Awu. Awolowo said that he was not the most intelligent politician, but he was very hardworking. That while his contemporaries attended parties in the night, enjoyed themselves with wine and women, he was in his study, burning the candle, trying to find out why things are this way and how they could be improved upon. That there's no magic about him. I don't know whether I saw him speak that way on a television. So what we are saying is that you need people who are thinkers in government. Then you have people who are doers. That's why in a company you have a board of directors. And you don't go to the board of a company because you know the road to the room where they sit.
What do you see in this?
But in Nigeria, once you know the road to this, you can use gun and shoot your way. And they call it election.
Do you see in-depth thinking, or what do you see predominantly stand out?
I don't see so much in-depth thinking. And even in those who are managing the president, I also do not see so much depth of professionalism. I saw him most of the time yesterday when he was reading, he was doing more of looking in the paper. I think there's this modern thing they call teleprompter. In those days in America, Jimmy Carter was said to have been prepared a number of times, sessions, before he came on television. And people would make his face, cosmetologists. We saw all those things in the newspapers and magazines. So it is their best outing, an opportunity to tell their people things may be difficult, but have hope. If Obama sounds us in, there is an air of authority. I don't know whether you get the point I'm making. There is an air of authority. There is an issue of courage, not just only verbiage. You have to have the courage to inspire confidence.
And some of these things predicated on the fact that the system, I mean, here we are, we have educationally less developed states, we have the quota system, we have this federal character. So if you have to pick people who will surround you, who are expected to be the best, you have to deal with that factor as a politician.
During the time of Idiabo, Idiabo and Buhari is the only administration, military administration people refer to Buhari Idiabo. You will never hear the number 2 man in the other administrations. How did it happen? In fact, at the stage they were even telling Buhari, very soon this man will take over from you. And that made Buhari somehow start asserting himself. Okay? Now, the point we are making is, Idiabo in those days was reported to have assembled his classmates, vibrant ones, because those who knew you at school will tell you the truth, because they knew you when you were nothing. Now, if you have become a big man, everybody around you will be friendly, but you have very few friends. I don't know whether you see the difference. Friendly people will run away when the source of their friendship, where the attraction to you disappears, but friends will stand with you. So, when Idiabo was there, he organized people who were think tanks. Policies were hammered out. No policy should stand in isolation with order, because we are dealing with a system. Otherwise, once there's that disconnect, take the case of a motor vehicle. The moment you apply your brake, it is the duty of every other aspect of the functioning of the car to respect and respond automatically, depending on the good working condition of your brake system, to the fact that you want them to slow down. And when you accelerate, they must respect and respond instantly.
And any part that doesn't respond is faulty.
You can now see a systemic failure when you apply your accelerator and you are still greeting the same man 5 minutes thereafter. Are you with me?
I like to see that kind of vehicle.
That will stick to my head.
So what we are saying is that many people who are advising the president do not love him. It is very obvious. But unfortunately, they are the ones who do so much agitations. They impress the man by their vociferousness, by some theatrical outings, and the man is sold on their ideas that don't seem to carry us. Take the classical case of this Unilag.
I was just about to call your attention to the dailies now.
Yeah.
So what do you make of that?
University of Lagos changed. Many universities have been changed, like I know about Femia, even though there was an uproar in those days. But we should learn from history. If you look at the whole announcement, from my own reading from a psychological standpoint, it was a frenetic attempt to address the civil society that pander more on MKO Awo as the hero of democracy. So perhaps if what happened in January was what happened in January, let us see how to push that this government is a listening government in that respect. But you can see in doing that, it seems to have escalated more problems. Because there is not likely to be so much peace in Unilag, even with the morning environment there. What we are saying is, even if you have to change the name, it must be a gradual process that would have been thought through. Must we, was MKO, what would that represent for MKO? He was more of a sports person. If you called him, he donated so much to, MKO may have given scholarships, but he wasn't known so much in the academic circle. I don't know whether I get to, it's unlike Awo. Awo was more intellectually driven.
But there were still protests. I mean,
yet there were still protests. Yes. You understand? Now, are you going to say that if you change Unilag, it has to start from next year session? Because there's a contract between the students there now and the university. It was because it was Unilag that some of them applied to that place. There's going to be a run on the academic staff of the university. Some people may not want to be in a university with the name of a human being, an individual. I don't know what that. So that brand image, that it has acquired, is an asset on its own. So it cannot be thrown away just like that. So, and that is in addition to the fact that Unilag, as any other university, is a creation of a statute.
That's where I wanted you to
actually
come
so
in.
You cannot use the words of mouth or announcement. I know that it is possible, like in Nigeria, we are very good at working from the answer. Somebody knows that the answer for this objective is 15. Then he says, X plus Y. Cancel the X plus Y. You divide it by
But he doesn't get the formula.
Then you cancel it again. You model everything, and when the time is about, you say equal to 15. Hoping that the lecturer, the marker or examiner will say, okay, 50%.
And not look at the formula.
You understand? But they have now caught many students now. They say, if you are on the right track and you are unable to get the answer, you get the full mark. Once you have, because it's only a question of time, you will get the answer. You see the problem? But in Nigeria, we know the answer, we rush for the answer and begin to do the abracadabra. That's why things are not working. Things are not working. You say you want to do roads. How connected are these roads? What is the strategic thinking? Is it because there's so much demand? If there's so much demand, do those ones to placate. But there must be strategic thinking in our planning process.
Quickly before we go, would you say that at least, if we say we're working from the answer, would you at least score the president 50% on this one?
on what they have done
The
in the
renaming.
From my drift, you know that I am not for it. I'm not for it.
Because you slammed the accelerator and you're not greeting the person 5 minutes after. So it means you're already ahead. Okay.
I'm not for it.
So let's move
And
on.
I hope they will try to rescind that decision.
It's not too late.
It's not too late. It's not too late. The president meant well. He probably asked, what can I do to immortalize Abiola? And somebody who wants to play mischief said, go for this. Because it's mischief. And let me tell you, in the course of time, the way the students were shouting yesterday, the memory of Awo will be diminished because some of those people, Abiola, some of those students were young when these things happened. So they don't know about what you're talking about, Abiola or not. So they will voice things that will tend to deprecate the image of the very man you want to elevate.
Well, all right, but in 3 years, it can come out if they go through all of this, get thinkers in, it can come out looking good.
The president has the best opportunity under the sun.
Okay.
He's the best in terms of credentials, in terms of certificates. He has a PhD, which has never happened to this country. As the president, executive president, he should try to understand that the powers he has are enormous. He shouldn't be derailed by cockroaches. And you should not take advice from crickets.
Okay.
You should go directly rudderless. If a ship captain keeps listening to all the small nyon in the ocean, it will not get to its destination.